Hi folks, I'm Richard Friedman and welcome to my political cartoon countdown for July 31st, 2021. Well, I made it through July. We gotta keep on going. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I've been doing books for a number of years now, political cartoons through the Trump presidency, and come up with this is my fifth book that I just completed. And I'd like to give you a little bit of introduction. Is available on my website. There's a link to Amazon, and you could, if you just want to look at the pictures, I got some sample cartoons of the book up on my website, and that's Richard's Books, politicalcartoons.com, along with all my other books from the Trump administration. This book here is focused on politics. It's called, here it is, The Greatest 2021 Book of Political Cartoons, Edition 1, January through June. So it's pretty up to date. Up through June, through January and through June, you have here 6 months of current political cartoons that I've done. This is just a rough copy of the cover. You recognize some of the people here. You can see Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi. There. Bernie Sanders here, Mitch McConnell, and here's Jim Jordan playing the harp, and we have here, I forget his name now offhand, and here's Lindsey Graham, focusing on Lindsey. Here's Lindsey. Okay. We have President, Vice President, and you recognize Nancy Pelosi, as I said before. There's the old Secretary of State here. This is the ghost of Nixon. Here's the Pillow Man, Mike Landau. Here's former President Trump leading the band. He's leading the orchestra here. Yeah, you recognize some of these people. Rudy, there's Rudy Giuliani. There's the doctor, the COVID doctor, who Trump didn't like too much. There's the former Vice President Pence. There's a personality of Fox News, Sean Hannity. Okay. Okay, that's the book cover that I did myself just to There's the Twitter bird here. We can't leave out the Twitter bird flying around President Trump. President Trump directing the orchestra here. This is his orchestra with Lindsey on the drums. The bongo drums. Okay. This is Dr. Fauci. He's taken it all in. He's had enough. Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci. Vice President Pence applauding. Vice President Kamala Harris. President Joe Biden. Here's Joe Manchin in his Munchkin outfit. President Trump referred to him as Joe Munchkin, so I drew him as a Munchkin here. This is, as Trump would see him as Joe Munchkin, he called him Joe Munchkin, so I drew him as a Munchkin here. This is Joe Manchin here. His bar. Okay. Okay, so let's get started on the cartoon. Every week or two, we get together and we do the cartoon countdown based on impressions on Twitter. And if you like to see my cartoons, they're on Twitter at Bronx Cartoonist at RJF Cartoons. And I put them up and they're there to see if maybe you don't feel like buying the book, you can see them up on there. But nothing like having a book before you. I always say that my books are something, I like to look at cartoons. And sometimes I'll go back, way, way back, and I look at cartoons from way back with Tammany Hall and all these characters from Tammany Hall, the Democrats, what they had there. And I look back and I say to myself, at the cartoons, I say, I can't understand. I know it's funny cartoons, it looks funny in the drawings, but I really don't have the understanding. I have to look it up in the history book to find out what it's all about. But with my cartoons, you don't have to hit the history books because it's already there in the context. So 20, 30 years from now, if somebody picks up this book, they're going to know each cartoon, the background, each cartoon, because it's detailed in explanation. I know people say, well, Rich, why don't you write them smaller? Why don't you write them less wordy? But the thing is, as a former teacher, I guess it's in my nature to try to explain things, and I always try to give the full picture without being biased in any way, to the best of my ability. So I do it that way, and the payoff is that in 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, anybody could pick it up and they get the background of what happened and they get the gist of it. So the cartoons are great, they're colorful, and I know they're more colorful than mine are, but the fact is that the imprint that my cartoons will have in 50 years from now, if somebody picks them up, or 100 years will be greater. I won't be around, but the book will be somewhere. So anyway, for posterity, all right? So anyway, folks, so let's get started on the countdown, okay? Now here was, this is the top, we're doing the top 5 this week. Here is leading up to number 1, like I always say, Casey from New York. I'm from New York originally, listen Sunday mornings. I used to listen to Casey Kasem's top 40 countdown. You start with number 40, go to number 1. Well, this is how I modeled this. I'll go start with number 5, going up to number 1. And so here we go at it. Okay, this is numero 5, number 5. Okay, there we go. And here, this cartoon became outdated about a few hours after I did it, so it wasn't very popular. Because this is the selection that that the House Majority Leader, Nancy Pelosi, made for her committee to investigate January 6th, the Select Committee. And Kevin McCarthy here, he picked out some winning people for him that were not basically condemning the election, and started off with the premise. They were starting out with the premise that the election was rigged and this and that. So when you start out with that premise, which is an erroneous premise, how could you build a committee on a consensus to come to a consensus when you have that element in there saying, well, this is all a bunch of, from the get-go, we started out with a fake election. So what we got here? So that was a central theme, I feel, and that the people there did not vote to ratify on January 6th, didn't ratify when this was all happening, the election of Joe Biden. So, and that was after the riot, That's like saying after Pearl Harbor, I think we ought to sit down and talk with those Japanese, let's talk this over, after Pearl Harbor Day, I mean, so anyway, maybe it's not an analogy, but I just thought of it. It would be pretty funny for somebody to say something. It wouldn't be funny, but it would be, it would be a tragic type of thing, a tragic humor, which is what you have here, basically, sardonic humor. But it conveys the facts, and it gives you a sense of humor. It gives you a perspective to think, and that's really what I'm trying to do, is get people to think on their own, with a laugh, with a spoonful of medicine, a spoonful of if they have a spoonful of medicine, like mixed up with a little sugar. A teaspoon of sugar makes the medicine go down. Well, this is a teaspoon of sugar that I'm giving you with my cartoons, with the humor. So anyway, so here it goes. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, at this time reluctantly, we knew she was reluctant about accepting these people, accepts Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's 5 GOP picks to join the Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. Her conceivable response to 3 of McCarthy's Republican appointees who voted to overturn Biden's win on January 6th. Okay, and this was from July 21st. This was before. This was during the interim when they were selected, and before House Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi refused to accept them on the committee, basically expelled them from their nomination by McCarthy. Okay, so here is Nancy Pelosi. Here she is. There's Nancy at the time. And here are the 3. So what I did was, here she's saying this. Better the 3 Stooges here than Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. So she was taking it a little bit of philosophically. I thought she was taking it philosophically when she didn't say anything from the get-go. She didn't say anything, so I kind of figured she was taking it philosophically, you know. She's just going to have to put up with this better than that, this than that. It could be worse, like a half full glass of water, you know. So either half full or half empty. She was taking it as half full. That's how I kind of figured it would go when she didn't say anything right off the get-go. But then she right away, and that was that. So I did these the 3. This is Jim Banks as Mo, and this is Jim Jordan as Larry, and this is Troy Knowles as Curly. Mo, Larry, and Curly, and she would call them the 3 Stooges. You know, that would be her way. You know, as a joke. And there it is, the 3 Stooges: Mo, Larry, and Curly. Okay. That cartoon was minimal because right away it was outdated and it was wrong that they were on the committee. So in the interim, it was doing, but then boom, you know. So I wanted to show it to you anyway. I thought it was a pretty humorous thing to show there. Okay, as number 5. Okay, numero 4, number 4. This cartoon is the most up to date that I have, but as of now, it's still early in the game. So, but this is where it is right now at number 4. It might go to number 1. I don't know, but here it is. There's President Trump. This is at the Ellipse on January 6th, prior to the riot. So we all saw on television, we all saw the scenes over and over again played that President Trump was saying, we got to take this country, you know, paraphrasing, you know, we have to take this country. Well, I don't even want to get into that because you saw enough of it. You really have seen enough. It's been played and played on the cable networks over and over again. So, but I did a different take on it that nobody has ever done. Here it goes. Former President Donald Trump defends his response to the Capitol riot on January 6th, which he did, focusing on the rally on the Ellipse. That's right outside the White House. It's called the Ellipse. I used to be a geometry teacher, taught algebra and geometry. And so the ellipse is like, it's kind of like this, like that. It's an ellipse. So that's why that's the geometrical form of it. So they called it an ellipse. Okay, we're right outside. Well, you know, not in front of the White House, but way distant away from the White House. But in the proper area, in that very close area of the White House, ahead of it. Okay, where he spoke before on the rally on the Ellipse, where he spoke before the January 6th riot, and characterizing the rally. Now, the former President Trump focused in his defense was on the rally itself, not to discuss what happened thereafter, after he gave his rally and after everybody participated in the rally. What happened next, he didn't get into. He was focusing on the rally itself. So characterizing the rally as a love fest, quote, this was his exact words, a love fest, and a beautiful thing, quote, unquote. And quote, I'm talking about the rally itself, unquote, okay? Basically appearing, this is me now, sorry, basically appearing to imply there was something like a Woodstock moment You know, for those of you my age, remember back in I think it was 19. It was 19. The Woodstock was I think in '69. I think the Woodstock. I think it was '69, summer of '69, August of '69. There, all these when Vietnam was going on, and everybody. And I'm from the Bronx, and I heard about it was going on. A lot of people I knew in the area went there. I wasn't into that. I was driving my too busy driving my cab, staying alive enough to make money enough to pay my $50 a month school tuition and get my clothes and food and stuff like that. So I was more focused on staying alive with making money and driving my taxi cab in New York City, which was no bargain. You know, could make an argument. You know, that day. I remember the first day I went to pick up my cab in the Bronx. I walked into a lot there, and I get into the cab, and the guy was kind of showing me the ropes. You know, here's the Motorola. Here's your walkie-talkie. You say check it whenever you get the party. You see, repeat the address. You see check it 602 22nd Avenue. Check it, and then you get there. You know, and that'd be 275. Check it. So that's how it used to go. So then the guy tells me all this stuff. You know. And then he says to me, you know, here's your backseat, here's your shotgun in the back, underneath the cover, underneath here. In case anybody messes with you, tries to kill you, you got your shotgun right here. This shotgun's loaded, ready to go. So you just take the aim. This is literally true. I remember like it was yesterday, you know. You know. So I said, I hope no little kids go back there and start shooting around. You know, that could happen too. So anyway, that's the truth. That's a true story. So anyway, I think back to those days in the late '60s. So there was something like a Woodstock moment, as if he and his supporters joined together in singing John Lennon's anti-war song "Give Peace a Chance" from the 1970s. So that was John Lennon, one of the Beatles, who unfortunately he was shot in Manhattan. You know, we know the story about that very sad thing, John Lennon. So. He was shot, I think, in December of 1980, if I remember correctly, right outside his apartment. But anyway, so anyway, it just comes up in mind, and we're still having this stuff going on today. So anyway, give peace a chance, and from 1970s. So here it goes now. Here's President Trump at the rally, and this is what this is the Woodstock moment that he may have been thinking about and fantasizes in his mind here. Okay, all we are saying is give peace a chance. Remember that song? For those people who are up there in my age bracket. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. So there it is. And there's President Trump with the American flags, and there he was at the ellipse, and this is how it went before, according to what, you know, putting it into a background in the ballpark of what former President Trump was saying, that it was a beautiful thing, and that it was really beautiful and a love fest. You know, you think back to Woodstock. When you see a love fest, you think, what do you think? Woodstock. I mean, people in my generation, anyway. And there they are. And they're the Trump supporters with their red hats, doing the peace sign with the thumbs up. There's President Trump. They're the supporters. And they're jumping up and down and saying peace. Try to put some action in there, you know. Okay. All right. Here we go. Next one. This is out of The Godfather, a scene I recall from The Godfather when after Michael Corleone had been his father was shot at the fruit stand. The Godfather, played by Marlon Brando, Don Corleone, was shot up at the fruit stand buying fruit. The family, the son of one of his adversaries, Don Corleone's adversaries, made a call, and they set up a meeting, and they took Michael Hagen, who was the consigliere to the Corleone family and also their lawyer. And they took him hostages, and then they all got back and had a meeting, and then they were sitting around in the living room area, and then somebody delivered a dead fish, and Tom Hagen, played by who was the consigliere, the lawyer, who was not familiar with the culture. He said, "We got a fish here. I don't know. Well, we didn't. Anybody call up for fish? I don't know. We didn't call for fish. Who delivered this fish or something?" So they said, "No, that's a Sicilian message that Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes, because Luca Brasi was like Don Corleone's, the Godfather's right-hand man when he needed something to be done, And Michael Corleone at the wedding." Gee, I remember this. I don't know how. This is true though. I met when The Godfather was being done in the Bronx. They were filming in Louis' Restaurant up in White Plains Road. I went up there and I met the director of the Godfather. I was speaking to him there, and we're looking at all the old cars that they had around. I didn't see any of the actors there. I only saw the producer of the movie, and he was there. The man had a long black beard then. It's probably white now. I can't think of his name offhand, But I talked to him for about a half an hour. He was just standing there watching, and somehow he just had time to talk. And I was speaking to him, and looking at all the old cars that they assembled around the restaurant where it was on White Plains Road. And I remember it was interesting to see all that and to see the whole set of how they were doing it. So that's my connection to the making of The Godfather, a real connection there. It was only about, it wasn't too far from where I was living at the time in the Bronx. So anyway, I guess I heard over the radio or the television that they were shooting there, and I went down there, and there it was. So anyway, so this is based upon that Luca Brasi, because they didn't want a retaliation, so the family went ahead and they got Luca, and they took and they say Luca, the fish was a symbol that Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes, means they took him out. They took him out. So anyway, so here goes. Luca Brasi was the Godfather's right-hand man. So I put this analogy here with Mitch McConnell, who was Trump's right-hand man in the Senate, with McConnell. See, Mitch McConnell was Trump's right-hand man in the Senate. So a little different context, so it's not the same thing, because here we have President Trump being angry and upset at Mitch McConnell. I'm sure more now than ever, since he did that commercial to get people to take their vaccines. President Trump really must be pissed at him for doing that. Take those vaccines. He went on there in Kentucky, and he said, get those vaccines. You gotta get those vaccines. But where was Mitch all along? He was nowhere to be seen all this time. It's like, again, I go back to Pearl Harbor. It's just like somebody doing when they're dropping the bombs. Somebody, the Japs are coming. Meanwhile, the bombs are dropping. Look out for those Japanese Zeros. And then the bombs are dropping, It's too little too late. But better late than never. Anyway, better late than never. Okay, so here we go here for this, okay? Former President Donald Trump has Godfather dream of Mitch McConnell sleeping with the fishes, following McConnell being among Republicans in the Senate who voted to launch a floor debate That's not passing the bill. It's just a vote to take the bill up in debate. That's only the bill, the vote to debate. It's not the vote to pass the bill itself. Okay, so keep that in mind. In the Senate, who voted to launch a floor debate that could result in a Senate victory for a bipartisan infrastructure package that has been strongly supported by President Biden. Oh, that's a killer right there. Supported by President Biden. Former President Bush ain't going to like that one. Given the former president said, don't do the infrastructure deal. Wait until after we get proper election results in 2022 or otherwise. That's the word I underline here, or otherwise. So otherwise could mean sleeping with the fish. I mean, I'm not going to say that. But otherwise is otherwise. Who knows, right? Who knows? So anyway, so here's Mitch McConnell sleeping with the fishes. And there he is. And there he is, right here. Sleeping with the fishes. He was pretty comfortable. There he is, sleeping with the fishes. There are the fishes. Mitch with the fish sleeps. Mitch with the fish sleeps. There it is. Otherwise, Mitch with the fish sleeps. And that's how it goes. Yeah. One more shot of Mitch sleeping with the fishes. He has what? Eyes closed. Fish are sleeping, along with Mitch. Okay, here we go, moving along here. We're getting close. Numero cuatro, number 4. We're getting there. There it is. Now, here's an interesting cartoon, Mike Pence, featuring Mike Pence. No characters drawn here. This is just a scenario. Former President Mike Pence dreamed of the inscription on his tombstone, following former President Donald Trump, who he had loyally served, repeating in an interview that I was very disappointed in Mike Pence. I said to Mike Pence, Mike, you're no Thomas Jefferson. Now, here's what happened here. The fact is Mike Pence went ahead and he signed off. It was really what they call a perfunctory obligation as vice president to ratify the electoral college votes, to make it official. You know, just basically putting a rubber stamp on the election. It was a ceremonial thing that he was doing. He didn't have the power to change the election, even if he thought that it was based constitutional power to do it. See? So he went ahead and followed the Constitution. He looked it up. Pence did his homework and he looked it up, and probably went to a constitutional lawyer. Maybe, you know, it's hard to imagine. Maybe he did look it up. And he said, well, I don't have the authority to do this. This is a way to get a diplomatic way of telling President Trump, no, look, President Trump, I'd like to do it for you, but I don't have the constitutional authority to turn down, to go against the democracy of the United States. The founding fathers didn't set it up to give me that power to say no to the vote of the people of the United States, to just throw it in the garbage can and say, okay, let's do it again. I don't have that power to do that. It's not constitutionally acceptable. I'd be breaking the constitutional law of the United States. The founding fathers, the way they set this thing up. But President Trump didn't want to hear anything like that. He felt that it was such a bad violation, such deep fraud, and so frauded and horrible thing that he was, you know, that all this stuff without any proof. There was no proof, but his instincts told him that somehow, that, well, if I was ahead at the beginning of the evening and all of a sudden I took a nosedive like that, how could that happen, you know? How could that be? You know, here I was way up on top in Arizona, and then boom, all of a sudden, what happened there? Somebody flew in some votes from China, you know, well, with balsa wood or whatever they call it, so some wood in there, and they did an investigation to find out if there was wood in the ballots to see if they came in from China, and put it under a microscope. I did some cartoons about that. I mean, where, I can't. So all this stuff that they grabbed at, and then you had Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about. Well, anyway, we don't need to go there right now. So here's a cartoon. Stay focused on that. Okay, I was very disappointed. I said to Mike Pence, no Thomas Jefferson. And reportedly went on to say Pence was in the exact same position as Thomas Jefferson, but it was only the state of Georgia. So now here, I gotta tell you, here with Thomas Jefferson. So basically, it's not an analogy, but it's interesting that he said that. The former president conveying that Jefferson replied when told Georgia is unable to act. This was with Jefferson. The only question mark was Georgia, and it was a real question mark because a lot of other people had questioned the count from Georgia back in the 1800s. See, he had a situation here where Jefferson was the vice president running for president, and he also had to sanction the vote. So it was a very, very, the founding fathers never could have conceived of a situation like that, where you had the vice president who's in charge of ratifying the Electoral College vote is also running for office. It could have been a clause in there under that condition, then he has to be disqualified from doing that, and we'd pick the next person in line. It could have been, but they never conceived of a situation like that, probably not. And then on top of that, there was a legitimate concern about Georgia. Now this was legitimate, and they said I read above that Jefferson when he was going through the thing and signing it, he was very upset. He was very upset that this is like a legendary nobody came. There's nobody around here. No pictures of him being upset about it. But this is what is written in the history books, that he looked very strange, like no one had ever seen him before looking when he went ahead and ratified that 1800 election, and he was running against John Adams. So anyway, so the story was that I don't want to complicate the soup and put too much into the soup, and you don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. So I'm trying to make it simple. So to show that it's not an analogy, and yet so what happened here is that here it is. If Jefferson, okay, we'll take votes from the great state. So here's what Jefferson replied from knowing that this was occurring. The former president conveying that Jefferson replied when told Georgia is unable to accurately count its votes. This is Jefferson, the quote from Thomas Jefferson. Then we will take the votes from the great state of Georgia, knowing that there was legitimate concern for the authenticity of that vote from Georgia at the time. It was only Georgia, one state. An historical account reflects if Jefferson did in fact ignore the irregularities that should have invalidated the Georgia ballot in his capacity as vice president, because the 4 electoral votes that was from Georgia, he received from that state as also a candidate for president in the election of 1800 against John Adams, might well have won him the election. So that decision on part of to stay quiet and just go through with it, won him it could be argued that it won him the elections. Then you might have had Aaron Burr, who was his vice president, challenging him for the presidency as well, the way it was set up in those days. You see, because in those days you could have a Democrat and a person from a Republican Democrat, called a Republican Democrat and a Whig or whatever, and then you could have people from different parties as president and vice president. It was set up in those days. That's how it was permissible for the president and the vice president to be of different parties in those days. So it created a whole mountain of possibilities. So Aaron Burr who was Jefferson's vice president, could say, okay, I'm going to run for president now without those 4 votes, and it could have triggered a lot of problems there, constitutional problems. So it didn't happen because Jefferson went along and he got the 4 votes from Georgia, and then he became president, and Aaron Burr became his vice president. So everything went along pretty smooth, except for the fact until today when President Trump said that he's no Thomas Jefferson, meaning that just the opposite, because Thomas Jefferson went along with it. He went along with the count, knowing the count, chances are very good that the count was wrong because of the Georgia votes, but he went along with it anyway. So the thing was that Pence went along with it, but he didn't go along with it because he thought it was wrong. He believed in our democracy, and he believed it was the right thing to do. And I'm sure in his heart he knew it was right, and that there was no evidence. Nobody came forward with any evidence to show that there was a significant amount of voter fraud that would have influenced the election in any state. And they counted and recounted the whole deal. They went so many times they came up with the same results practically. So anyway, so it's not an analogy. Former President Trump used it as an analogy there to show that. So in his own way, I don't know if anybody ever would question him on that. I don't know what his reply was. He'd get out of it though. He'd find a way. Former President Trump would find a way to say, that this is what I thought this, and then but Jefferson may have thought this and that, and that. There's always a way, always a way. So I just thought it was interesting. And here is the tomb that former Vice President Pence might want on his tomb as a reflection of that episode. Okay, so here, Michael Pence, forever loyal to Donald J. Trump. Forever we will not see eye to eye on January 6th. Pence said that. The President Donald Trump and myself may never see eye to eye on the events of January 6th. So he said that, and this is what I kind of added as a logical conclusion. Forever we agree eye to eye. I was no Thomas Jefferson. Okay? Because President Trump, again, said he was no Thomas Jefferson, and former Vice President Mike Pence, is saying, okay, we agree on that. I'm no Thomas Jefferson. Okay, there it is. That's the tomb. Okay. All right. El número cuatro. No. Número uno de la semana. Number one of the week. Okay, here we go. Now, okay. If House Minority Leader McCarthy makes good on his threat that Republicans will run their own investigation. So this is what happened here, is that McCarthy became very upset over the fact that House Majority Leader Nancy Pelosi kicked these three appointees off of the Select Committee to investigate January 6th Capitol riot. He was very pissed and mad, so he was going to say, he says, he threatened now. He threatened, he didn't actually do it. I don't think he will do it, but he did threaten to do it. And maybe he will, as a distraction, could be. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. If House Minority Leader McCarthy makes good on his threat that Republicans will run their own investigation to answer why the Capitol was ill-prepared for the riot in the wake of Speaker Pelosi. So what they're doing is, the Republicans are taking this into a process situation where the process was screwed up because there was nobody there to protect the Capitol. And they're trying to blame Nancy Pelosi that she has the responsibility to provide the Capitol protection. That's her responsibility. Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker, is supposed to be in charge of that, and according to and it's not true. How would anybody, do you think the Founding Fathers would ever have, or I don't know if it's in the Constitution, I don't think it would be, nobody would ever think of making somebody to put you have to have, it's just like, in my thinking, it's just like with you really have to have professional people in charge of this. Nancy Pelosi never went to any security school. She never was a police officer. She never had any background in that. So how would you want to have somebody in charge who doesn't have the background of police enforcement and how to handle a situation and riot control and this and that? How would you want to have somebody in charge of that? It makes no sense to me. But anyway, that's what they're saying now, that it's all Nancy Pelosi's fault. The Capitol was ill-prepared for this assault because she did not take action and didn't do the right thing. change her mind. In the wake of Speaker Pelosi's refusal to change her mind about rejecting McCarthy's appointments of representatives. Jim Banks, Jim Jordan, to the January 6th committee. So these were the two she rejected. She rejected two. About rejecting McCarthy's appointments of Representative Jim Banks and Jim Jordan to the January 6th Select Committee. She did not accept those two. That was only two. Amid Pelosi's expressed concern that statements made and actions taken by these members that could impact the integrity of the investigation. Nancy Pelosi was saying basically that these people start out with the premise that they weren't going to vote to ratify Joe Biden as the next president of the United States. You put somebody like that on a committee, what good was that do? You know, it's like sending. I'm going to use this, but no, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. No, I'm just going to leave it as it is. Let it stand the way it is. There it is. The integrity of the investigation. Those Republican lawmakers now part of Kevin McCarthy's investigation. So he's taken those lawmakers as part of their. This is if. This is a big word. If is my sixth grade teacher, Mr. Keogh, once said to me, Richard, what's the biggest word in the English language? And I said, well, I remember hearing anti-disestablishmentarianism or something like that. And he said, no, it's the word if, because if means if those people didn't go on the airplane, they'd be alive today. If this, if that. So if is the biggest word. So here I start off here with the word if, you know, if. There's if. Okay? So if. And this is this is the scenario if he had gone through with his threat, McCarthy gone through his threat because he was angry at Pelosi not accepting those two appointees. Okay, so here we go. Here it is, here. Okay, so here is Banks, Pelosi, and here he goes. Numero, okay, in the sequence. Pelosi kicked us off her committee because she's afraid of the facts. Okay, that's here. She's afraid of the facts. Pelosi's afraid of the facts. Okay, and then we have number two. And here comes McCarthy, right in the center here, McCarthy. And he's saying, the fact is President Trump used Twitter to instruct the mob to go home. He tried to stop it. President Trump tried to stop the riot because he got on Twitter, and he said, it's time to go home. Time to go. Okay, after all, you know, okay. And then here, we have here, the fact is, and then we have here Jim Jordan. There's Jim. With yellow tie there. Jim Jordan saying, the fact is Speaker Pelosi could have stopped it before it started. It was her fault there wasn't enough security. Jim Jordan has really been up on that theme. That's been his big theme of his. And then here we have McCarthy coming back and concluding this cartoon with, here's McCarthy. Okay. Kevin McCarthy, the House Speaker. Okay, who again is pissed off because these two appointees of his were kicked off the committee, select committee, to investigate January 6th by Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker. So here is the House Minority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, saying, as a conclusion to this cartoon, he's saying, kicking these two great American patriots off the January 6th committee was an egregious abuse of power by Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She has gone further than anyone's gone before. I can't think of anyone else who abused her power in such a way, basically is what he's saying. Can't think of anybody else. You know? Who knows? Can't think of anybody else. I'm going to leave that to your imagination, folks. So I want to thank you very much. One more last shot here. And here we are. Okay. I want to thank you very much, folks, for watching my political cartoon countdown for this day, July 31st, 2021. And I invite you to go to my website and check out my newest book. It just came out two days ago. It's up there. Check out if you don't feel like in the mood to spend $12.99 and buy it. Well, you can just look at the cartoons. It's like a political Disney World because you see all my other books there, and it's all there, and there's no admission charge. And that's, again, Richard's Books, no apostrophe S, just plain Richard's Books of politicalcartoons.com, no spaces. And so I invite you to do that, and I invite you to also make sure, and people are saying this left and right, but get those, if you haven't gotten your vaccine, I have to say that you're just walking around with a time bomb in your pocket, you know? It's like you got a time bomb in your pocket, you know, waiting to go off. Because if this virus don't get you, then there's going to be more coming down the road that are going to be even more better than the Delta. It's going to happen because people are, it's just these things have a life of their own, and they want to get stronger and stronger, and that's what's happening here. It's nature gone crazy in a way, because this is all nature, and thank God we have these vaccines. So you're sitting with it. If you're not getting vaccinated, you got a time bomb, because it's only a matter of time before a virus comes. You could argue that, well, if you don't get it, it's still a matter of time, because sooner or later they're going to come up with a virus that you won't be able to do nothing against anything. You know, I mean, you could always argue that point, but then again, the thing is that I bet you got to bet on science, that science will find a way that even if such a monster comes along, that they'll go back to the laboratory and reprogram it, and they'll find the monster, and they'll get the monster. You know, just like when I was a kid, whenever I used to go to the movies, I remember, you know, for 25 cents on Ogden Avenue, you used to see 3 monster movies, and you see these big giant monsters, Rodin and the Blob, and all those movies, and those monsters were coming all over the place, but they always found a way to get the monster. In every movie, the monster always died. So I'm telling you now that Americans, we will get the monster no matter what comes along. So I advise you to have faith in science, and have faith in doing the right thing, which is to get that vaccine. And unless, you know, somebody medically tells you not to get it because something happened, that's a different story now. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's very important that people at least consider what the ramifications of not getting it are, because you're contributing to the newer viruses. It's just like donating. It's like sending in money to the vaccine, contributing to the Coronavirus Association, Association of Coronaviruses, who want to expand themselves. It's like giving money to them, because all these mutations are happening because these viruses are giving a chance to promulgate among us in all our societies and countries. So with that, I want to say to you, God bless you, God bless America, stay well, and enjoy life to the best of your ability, and just think of better days are coming. They always do. And I thank you again for watching this video, and take care, folks, and I'll see you next time.